Okay, we are recording. We've got a few people in here. I'll just show you the chat. So here's everybody that's joined us today. Let me turn off streamer mode here, okay? Hey, Digital, I see you there in chat. So yeah, I mean, as usual, y'all interrupt me at any time, talk in chat, the chat over here, if you can't talk on voice, and we'll discuss whatever question you have or comment you have. So let's just jump into it here. I don't have any new alpha alerts here just yet. I suspect we will get some. The reason why I like this time frame, starting around 9:30 my time, is because that's about when the US markets are most active. I'd say from 9:30 a.m. to 11. We do have one here that I just kind of wanted to go over it real quick because it was an alert this morning. It was the most recent alert we had in early alpha alerts. And we've got, so the FDV at the time, you could just call that the market cap, was 990K. Somebody purchased an amount of 3,648. You got your CA right there if you want to copy it. We've got two different wallets that purchased it. And let's see, we know it's a brand new launch because it had a seedling emoji. Remember that. If you got a seedling, you're good. I would prefer just to find new launches. I mean, if you go and you look at this one for Ice Bucket Challenge, you could go into it, but just understand that if you see this repeat emoji and whatever number is beside it, that means how many times it has repeated as an alert within this channel. So just keep that in mind. But if we look at this one that just showed up at 990K, which was right around, I think, 9:02 my time this morning, it did conservatively, it did a 1 point, or I guess you'd call it a 2.5x. If you look, to the top of this box right here where it rejected the candle bodies. Sure, it had a big wick. I mean, maybe you would have had your auto sell set up to catch something like this. And believe me, it can happen. If you had your, let's just see what that number would have been. So let's say if you had your auto sell, let me bring this up. And let's say I had mine at 300%. And I was going to take 20% of my tokens and sell them at a 300% gain. Well, this was 212. I had that wrong, didn't I? So let's say I had it at 200. And so my take profit is at 200% gain if I bought there and I sold there. Even though that wick happened, there's probably going to be some situations where there's not enough liquidity for you to catch that move, even with your automated sell, whatever bot you're using on Telegram or wherever. But I have seen it happen many times for me where I had that set up. So I would definitely recommend, if you're into degen trading or if you're just into, new launches, it doesn't have to be a degen launch. It could be a token that you've been following for a while that's really hyped up and you wanted to get in right on the launch. And a lot of times we will have alerts for those when they show up. So let's see if we have anything new. Nothing new yet. We can look into the wallets here. Remember, if you're not seeing much on the early alpha, just jump into one of the wallet, either top degen or high conviction wallets here, and we'll see what they're buying. So AIOS, that was that one. We were just talking about FARTCOIN before everybody else joined. It was really funny because Beef Supreme had mentioned that he noticed one of our, I'm hoping y'all can see this. Let me verify before I keep going. Where is, yeah, okay, it looks like it's working. So this was funny because, let me get back to that screen. This was funny because when you go to top degen wallets and you look right here, it says awful token deployer early, meaning, they not only do they deploy tokens, but sometimes they're early on projects that they don't deploy. But it was just funny that they had the word awful in there. And I guess Rod, y'all know him as Rodster maybe, he must have labeled it that way. And I got to ask him about it. I don't really know why he labeled it that way. But, in this case, you don't necessarily have to look for two buys because if you're not seeing any new alerts in early alpha, then that means like something like FARTCOIN 2 hasn't had two buys yet. So in this case, you're just looking for any buys at all, and you're looking for the seedling emoji. So what I'll do is I'll copy the contract address here. And actually what I do sometimes is I'll paste it in the search because I want to see if there was any other alerts for it this morning. So we had one at 9:25, 9:31, and let me move this a little bit. Okay, so 9:25 and 9:31. So let's just see what it looks like over here. By the way, I'm not interested in this play anymore. I just want to make a point of that. we didn't really go over the MACD, but I think it's probably, yeah, let me just go over that real quick before we move on to the next one. MACD looked great. You know, lines were curling up, trending up. You got a cross down right there. You could have gotten out. This is on the 30-second chart. And I know I've told y'all before that sometimes I won't get out unless both lines, or at least one line, crosses below the midline down here. You know, the line separating the red and the green candles. So either one of these would have been correct. If you want to be more aggressive and take profits quicker, then, you know, take profits on the cross down. But you want to see an uptrend if you're going to get in. And then if you get that cross down, just go ahead and get out. And then on the flip side, if you're hoping, you know, hey, maybe this thing goes more than 2x, then as long as these two lines are holding, or at least one line is holding pretty well above, which it could be curling down one more time here, then you just keep holding until the line crosses down again. So even if you took profits here, what would that be? You still would have made like 80%. So this is on 30-second. Always move up to the next level as soon as you can to get more information. So we're going up to the minute chart from the 30-second, and we're going to see if we get some more information here. I mean, you still got a cross down right there. You're actually still at that same level where it crossed down. So, you know, you could take profits here if you had purchased this one. But, you know, you're creating lower highs here on the MACD, so that's not good. You want to see a strong move back up. But technically, you know, it's still above the midline, so it's still bullish. Now, as far as the lines go and waiting for the line to cross down before you're absolutely sure that it's probably done, if you're going to use that method, don't go over 1 minute. You know, you don't want to use that method on the 5 minute because it lags too much. So, you know, now we're looking at the 5 minute. Technically, you know, it looks like it's still bullish, right? Although you've got kind of a, I don't know if you call that a bearish divergence. I mean, you've got volume that's coming down while the MACD is going up. I guess you could call it that. But this could also be a bull flag, right? So I would say as price is going up, you know, think in terms of, you know, putting some lines here for yourself. So the local low is right here because you had a, you know, a big explosion up. When did that happen? Yeah, this thing, let's see, 10 o'clock. So this thing kind of sat around. Oh, well, it's actually much older than I thought. It's 101 days. So I'm surprised that this was such a nice move that somebody could have made 2x off of it. I thought this was a new launch, but I was wrong. Usually I won't mess with these. But anyway, this could be a bull flag, but you really want to see this 1.5 million support level hold. And so in this case, if you wanted to take a chance and just keep holding, you could. But if you started to get candles closing below that line, I would just get out because this is your local low. And if it got below that, then that was obviously a, you know, a bearish move. So let's look at this other token. And we'll just kind of keep talking about some of these methods that we're looking at. What did we say, 925-ish? Yeah, so 931 was one alert, and I think 925 right in here somewhere was another one. So there is a 2x that could have been had on this one, and it looks like it's still moving. Let me look at 30-second chart. Yeah, I mean, things still look good here. You know, if we saw something like this, like if the alert came in right here and then we saw this, I probably would have gotten out because the line crossed down. But once it crossed back up, you could have been right back in. We talk about volume for those that don't really watch or haven't watched this just yet, like the one we did yesterday. We want to see volume around 50K, and we're seeing that currently on the 5 minute. So we got 50K volume for every 5 minutes currently. Let me just see here. I mean, it looks okay so far. This is where it gets tricky, right? You know, you get it, it's kind of coming down and then it curls up and it's kind of bouncing around. Now, I would say what you'd want to watch for here is any kind of lower high on the MACD. So you got a higher high from, you know, all of these, and now you want to see if it's a lower high. And of course, it needs to get above this wick because that was where somebody took a lot of profits right there. But here's your first alert. You know, the first wallet that you saw buy, I think, was right here. And I know we're not doing this exactly in real time, but it's pretty close. Yeah, I'd really like to find one. Anyway, that was close to a 2x. It wasn't exactly a 2x, but it looks like it wants to move more to me. It really has to get above that line there, right there though. But just remember, you know, here, whoops, I didn't mean to do that. Kind of right in here is your local low. when you're talking about local highs, local lows, you're just looking for things that are within this vicinity, that you're trading in, this real-time area, and you're trying to look, okay, what's my low, what's my high? Is it getting above the high? That would be bullish. Does MACD still look okay? Switch to the 1 minute, switch to the 5 minute even. Well, the 5 minute doesn't have enough information yet, but here's your 1 minute. And what you're looking for, of course, just like we talked about, if we're looking at MACD, this is a higher high, that's a lower high, but it created another higher high from this one. So there's no bearish divergences here where there's a lower high or anything like that. What I would say in this case, if you got something that's going vertical like this and you did buy in here, then once this thing crosses down, you may want to consider taking some profits. At the very least, take half out or something. But we'll kind of keep an eye on it. It looks like it did reject there. I mean, if it can hold above this line, especially on like a 1 minute, somebody's taking a lot of profits up here. I just want to look back at this one. Yeah, this one's not doing much. Volume's way down at 5K on that one we were just looking at. Yeah, so in this situation, if you start to see this blue line, the fast line taper back down to the yellow, I mean, I would probably be taking profits. I'd get my 2X and just get out of it. If volume, well, volume's pretty good actually. Volume's almost doubled since we started looking at this. Let me just check one more thing here. Okay, no more early alpha. Yeah, so we're still not seeing a whole lot of trades. I mean, when this thing is extremely active, when the market's going crazy, actually that was a perfect wick down to this support area. So this could hold. But when this thing is really going, I mean, you'd have early alpha alerts like every 5 minutes or so. The retail is just not back in just yet. I'm just trying to see if there's anything else we can look at while we're waiting on this one. So no early alpha. Yeah, it looks like it did hold. I mean, it's much easier to do this, right, when you don't have any skin in the game. My goal is, or was going to be this morning, to go ahead and, place some bids on these if it looked good. But we didn't get this one right when it signaled. So I'm trying to see if we can find another one. I don't see one yet, though. This is interesting price action, though, seeing what's going to happen with this one. But this is what I want to see, brand new launch. I would have loved to have gotten it here, but I didn't. We didn't get the alert that quick. We got it right there. But still, that's not bad. 181K. So we got it, 350K roughly. That's not bad from this high right here. Sometimes we'll get them as low as like 40K, but it's kind of rare. Yeah, I don't know. You're getting a lot of dojis up here. So it tells me there's somebody that has a lot of tokens and they're selling it. And one thing you can do is look at display options. You can look and see what smart money's doing on GMGN. Where's the one? Oh yeah, insiders, coal VCs. Is it gonna actually show these or not? I may have to refresh it. Yeah, I mean, that looks like a rejection to me. So why is it not showing? Oh yeah, there we go, insiders. You also want to look at what your top 10, that's not showing top 10, is it? Whales, dev, oh yeah, the dev, you want to see if the dev's selling, but usually they're gonna hide their activity anyway, using fresh wallets. So what this shows, of course, is the red circles are like a coal VC account. This one's taking profits. They bought here, they bought there. Well, I don't know. This could be consolidation, actually. Really tricky price action there at the very top. I don't know. My gut tells me it still wants to come down, but I mean, really, what you should be waiting for in reality is something like this. Some kind of lower high. The problem is if you take a cross down every time, if you take profit on the cross down every time, you're going to get faked out a lot. So you almost have to wait longer and be patient with it. Let me turn this back off.
MACD, you get a different picture as well, depending on the time frame you're looking at. So, how do you adjust the time frame in relation to, for example, the market cap or the volume? Or
Yeah, I mean, I just jump around really, which it's the same way. Yeah, I mean, if it's really the same way as if you were doing like a daily chart or something. So, for example, if we were looking at, I don't know, maybe I can turn this one off.
is because sometimes you can jump between, for example, like on a larger coin, you can look at a 1 hour time frame,
Right.
4 hour, and get a kind of contradictory view, and so if you're looking only at MACD, it can sometimes give you sort of an opposite viewpoint.
Sure, sure. No, that's a good point. I mean, I would always start with the highest time frame that it will show enough information. And first, I would do my support resistance lines, and then I know where the major volume, the most traded volume took place. And you could use a volume profile as well, the volume profile tool, wherever it's at. Fixed range volume profile. You could just use that and find out where most of your traded volume was. But I like doing support resistance lines just because it's the most basic form of trading, and price action is always king, and it's always going to be king, and then everything else comes after that. But when you're talking about brand new launches and looking at 1 minute, 5 minute, 30-second time frames, I mean, things move much more quickly. So you're right. I mean, it's still the same. It's still the same idea and the same theory. It's just that it's a much lower time frame range that you're looking at. So basically, if you were looking at the daily or the weekly on something like we were just looking at with Moonwell, it's basically the same thing as looking at the 5 minute and the 1 minute here. It's just that things happen in a much compact time frame than it would be on the other. But yeah, you just have to jump around. On a brand new token launch, I would never go higher than 5 minute. Right now, we don't even have enough information on the 5 minute, so I have to go down to the 1 minute. And as long as I have a smooth uptrend and things are still looking pretty good. I mean, what if I was looking at this, right, and I'm getting a lot of where this thing is just like a magnet against this line right here. So the fast line is just kind of hugging the slow line. I'm probably going to get faked out, especially with all this action happening here where it's coming down. So you have to decide, am I willing to take a risk here? Since I'm up a little bit and I've got my local bottom marked, then I'm just going to hold as long as it holds this bottom, and I'm just going to see how it plays out. If I get a candle fall below here, then I'm just going to break even, and I'm fine with that. But you don't want to miss out on the pump, of course. You put all the time into it, so go ahead and try to stay into the play if you can. I mean, if we go back and we look at this price action right here, you mark your local bottom, even though there was a lot of choppiness here between the two lines, just kind of up, down, both lines stayed above the midline, which is bullish. I mean, if you were to go and look at an RSI like this right here, the RSI was relatively, it stayed above the 50, which we know is bullish, relatively the whole time. This would be the only time it didn't, and it just temporarily dipped right here. But both lines stayed above, so it tells you that things were bullish during that time. And really, this is one of the most difficult things to do on a new launch, is to have the patience to hold through these MACD up and downs. It would be great if we could just see the 5 minute chart immediately, and it would slow our thought process down. Because the thing with the 5 minute is, just like if you were looking at the weekly versus the daily, or the daily versus the 3 hour, it's going to lag more, and it's going to make you feel a little more confident that the trend is actually up. Maybe both lines are moving, something like that. But with 1 minute, things are so choppy that as soon as you can step up to the 5 minute or even a 2 minute, I don't know if there's an option for that. I don't think. Well, maybe. It says you can edit it, but I don't guess you can here. I know on the DEX screener you can. You can do stuff like that. But here you go. I mean, there was really no reason to sell here. It got a little bit sketchy here. But this is why on the 30-second and the 1-minute chart, and sometimes I'll even step back down to a lower time frame, but this is why I'm okay with continuing to hold as long as one of these lines is not crossed below the, the midline threshold right here, because it gives some time for the, for the play to breathe. I don't use stop losses, by the way, just so y'all know. If I'm going to be in a play, I'm going to watch it manually, unless I just feel really strongly about it. But I mean, look how far our volume has come, right? So we started out, I think it was like 48K volume. Now we're up to 255K volume. So this is exactly what you want to see, is increasing volume while price is going up. Sometimes you'll see, volume that's at 250K, but the price is coming down and the volume starting to bleed. And that's really what you don't want to see, because money is coming out of it. There's not as many participants. So, volume's still going up. There's not any major corrections here, although might see one here. This is where, if you're looking for profit taking areas, I'd step back down to the lower time frame. And if you want to, if this tapers back down to the yellow and you've made enough profits for yourself that you want to take at least half out, then just go ahead and do it. Go with your gut, go with what feels good. I would say definitely always take profits. Remember, smart money takes profits on the way up. They don't wait until, they're telling themselves in their mind, oh, I'm going for a 5X. Well, what if it doesn't make it a 5X? Try to get your profits out and move on to the next play if it looks like it's breaking down. But, the trend's still up. You didn't get a cross down. Of course, if there's not a cross down on the 30-second, there wouldn't be one on the 1 minute either. But, there is some room to be, or some reason to be concerned here, just because you are getting some indecisiveness at this point. You're not getting some big green full candles like we were back here and here. We're getting, people that are taking profits here now. So your 30 seconds probably going to cross down, yeah. So you could even take profits now. You don't have to wait for the cross down. If you're happy with that amount of profits, just go ahead and take it. And be happy that you made that call. Even if this thing goes on and does like a 50X, I mean, who cares? Not all of them are going to do that. It's very rare. So you're going to end up making money over time, whereas somebody might be, holding through these, and then they round trip their whole bag. And these, everything that we're going through here also works on higher time frames. So at the same time, we're learning, and maybe you already know these things, but we're also practicing these things that are just theory, but we're putting them to the test in the real world, and then we can go back to higher time frames on our alts, and we can, help ourselves that way too. But this could be a bull flag. That's why I drew these things here. I think MACD's probably going to come down a little bit at the very least, just because momentum's slowing down. Volume has come down a little bit. It went up to like 270 for a second there. What else do we have? There's more buys than sells, which is a good thing. But your net buy is about 1K. It's kind of bouncing between green and red right now. What did this one end up doing? Yeah, there's no volume on that one at all, so I'm just going to close that one. Well, that's kind of a surprising breakout there. But this is a good example of why, even though you got a cross there, we watched that in real time, right? We got that taper down. We were talking about taking profits. It kind of just bounced right back up. So this is what I was getting at when I said, sometimes I'll just, on a 30-second chart, I'll just wait until one of these lines crosses below the midline. And I'm fine with, what if this thing is back down to here when this happens? So what? Maybe I just made a small profit, but I gave myself a chance to make a big profit, right? So it's really about strategy. It depends on what you're going for. If you're going for quick profits and you just want to make a 2X or something, then make your 2X and move on to the next play and don't even think about this one again. But if you're going for big profits, then maybe on a 2X, take 50% out and then let the rest ride. Try to extract as much as you can out of it.
Hey, Mike.
Hey.
One note that I had seen on Twitter is with original
Yeah, I mean, people would look at this and say, without any indicators at all, they'd look at this and say, wow, this thing's really starting to pump. I think it's going to break all-time high. That's that FOMO mentality where people would jump in at the top. But, just what I would do, what are we on the daily here? I mean, I would start out. Right, yeah. No, I mean, I think you're right. Well, number one, I would always start on the weekly chart, maybe the monthly if it had enough information, but I think the weekly works here. So I marked the top of the candle bodies of, this is kind of the resistance area up here where these two candle bodies rejected. And then I've got kind of a support area here. So this is our range currently. And this is how you want to look through these and try to determine what they're going to do in the future. So you're in no man's land here currently. I mean, in this case, since we're calling this support, that's really where you should be buying. If somebody wasn't in this one, and I'm just giving you an example, I know this isn't the case for you, that you were looking to buy it necessarily. You were looking to get out because you were concerned that it could retrace more. And I think you're right. If I was buying it, I'd be buying it near this line. I wouldn't be buying it currently where it's at. If I was selling, I'd be selling up here, or possibly looking, what if there was some kind of lower high that came in? So I'd be watching for something like that. And we can look at MACD. Can't see it on the weekly yet. Let's look at the daily. Okay, so yeah, I mean, daily looks fine, but we know daily lag, so maybe jump down to like a 3 hour. Let's take a look at that. Yeah, uptrend. Both lines are above the midline. That's fine. Hourly could be rolling over. Volume's coming out of it. So short term, hourly is very short term when you're talking about a chart that's been around for a while. We could see a rollover here, especially because there's some order blocks up here that there was a rejection. Let's see. So it was see, this was kind of like an order block right here where a support and resistance area met. I'm just going to delete these other ones for now. So order block here, there's an order block somewhere about in there. So, this thing could run a little bit more. Let's see where it's at. I mean, it could come up to this little wick right here too. Something like that. Yeah, I could see that happening too. It doesn't have to come all the way up to this. So this is what we call a swing failure pattern, where actually it's more like a dead cat bounce, I guess, but it could be the same thing at the same time. So price was coming down, dead cat bounce. People thought, maybe this was a great area to buy because it looked like a support area, because there was 1, 2 touches here, third touch, and maybe they thought it was just going to keep going. But that's just greed talking. That's FOMO, because this thing had already made a pretty good move from here. I mean, it really didn't have a correction at all. And that's one thing. Like if we look at CAS, I'm just going to give you a quick. Yeah, and it's all right. Yeah, I mean, hindsight's 20/20 on that, right? I mean, Rod and I were actually talking about that at the time. We were talking in chat that night when it happened, and some other people were joining us talking about it. And we said, something's going on. We don't know what it's going to amount to, but there was something very strange going on, and everything's very obvious in hindsight. But yeah, it ended up not being a good thing, didn't it? But here's a good example of, I think it was back in July, right in here at the very top, or maybe back here a little bit. I was telling people, I mean, these tokens are a cult, right? You get groups together, and there's a bunch of people that have bought the coin, and they're on X, and they're so happy that they're making money, and they all get together and they say, wow, this thing's just going to keep going, and they pump each other up, and nobody wants to sell. They say, well, just hold it. Everybody just hold, and price will go up. Well, unfortunately, that's not the way it works. There are, manipulation happens. Token deployers take profits. It's not just retail. In fact, I would say retail is a very small percentage of what actually buys these tokens. I mean, you even got institutional buyers that manipulate this. So it's the whales that cause things to go up and down. It's not retail. But, there's a very similar pattern. And then you got a topping formation here where support's lost. And I was telling people at the time, Caspa has not had any kind of correction at all. I mean, you could put a line here and say, okay, this was the point to probably get out because this was broken. And I've seen you draw, lines like this before, and it's correct. So, I would just say, regardless of the buy signals and all that, I mean, sure, they work very well. It keeps you in the play long enough that, what if the price keeps going, and then you can keep making money. But it also gets you out when things don't look so good, and you don't round trip things. And when I say you, by the way, I'm not talking to Grizzly. I'm just, talking in general, people in general. So yeah, I mean, when something has gone so hard like that, and FARTCoin is a good example of that, I would say, it is good to be cautious with it. So far, it looks okay to me. We've got these order blocks that we just talked about that it's coming up into, that it could reject at, and we were seeing the hourly could roll over. But again, the problem with looking at lower time frame MACD is that it can fake you out. And so if we go back here and we just look at, some of the price action, like even here, and then we look at the hourly. So we got price action going up, but look how often it faked people out. Like if they were taking profits on the cross down every time, they lost profits. So you got to give it time. I mean, this was a lower high right there, so that was scary. This is a higher high, this is a double top, and then it broke down right there, but price kept moving up a bit. So that's the hard part. Trading in real time, even on like 1 minute, 5 minute, it even becomes more difficult. So I mean, I don't know. I guess it's more mentality. You just got to decide whether you're going to hold or not. And I would look at it this way. If you're holding a token that has a lot of visibility, that is, I guess, is a very popular coin, then what I would do is I would just go with the sentiment. So if everybody's extremely euphoric and you're starting to see some signs in the MACD that it could be rolling over on a higher time frame, then just go ahead and take your profits out, or take 50%, whatever, because there's a chance that the sentiment is just too euphoric. And I mean, that's what smart money does. They kind of watch that, and then they take profits incrementally as it goes up, maybe 20% at a time. Maybe they don't take 50%, but these are the things that you have to work out for yourself and decide what your strategy is. But I do know that as things get back up into resistance levels here, it's very rare for it just to break through immediately again. I mean, generally you're going to get some kind of double top, and even if it's very strong, it would just kind of do like this first and then take off. So I don't know that this is going to happen. This is just one example. I mean, it could even do this, come up a little bit and consolidate sideways, or it could drop back down here. So it just really depends on if it's time to manipulate it, for whoever is keeping an eye on it, to, if they think there's too many longs, if they think the sentiment's too euphoric. We will see some euphoria for sure, because with Bitcoin hitting 90K, what is it at now? It's at 91. It's been, how many months has this been? January? Yeah, it's been about 3 months or 4 months since we've seen any upward action. So they will take advantage of people that are getting euphoric from this one move. And I think, we probably will get some kind of dip. It could just be something like this instead. It could just be like a sideways thing instead. But it could also be a retest of this breakout of the downtrend line. So hopefully that makes sense. I don't know. Maybe I'm rambling too much.
No, thank you. I think you're saying a lot of very good points. I mean, better than I could put it. Just a lot of truth to it. But I was just wondering about your opinion on, sort of going back to something you mentioned. For example, on a sub 200K market cap coin, in terms of trading volume, roughly in percentage terms, how much of that do you think is retail or trading bots or whales, let's say? I guess institutional investors would not get in until 1 million plus, I'm guessing.
Yeah, that's a really good question.
Wondering if you have any kind of guess to it, yeah.
Yeah, I'll give you some insight on that. I mean, we have launched a coin before, me and Rod and Tatiana, T-Insight, and actually we launched two. But the thing that we learned through this is that there's no amount, and I'll get to your question here in a second. I just wanted to make one other point. There's no amount of propping up, even if you're the token deployer and you just want to see it do really well for people. I mean, we had people that got in, that were in our group and other groups that we knew personally, and we were just hoping that everybody would profit from it, that people would take profits, and that the price would just continue to go up, and people would just continue to hold for the most part. And we were all talking, kind of like I was talking about the cult mindset. I wouldn't say for us it was like a cult mindset. It was just the idea that Tatiana had come up with was one that was kind of a charity-focused token, and everybody was really excited about it. But even that wasn't enough for the snipers. And snipers snipe the price immediately once you launch it. But there's a lot of other people. Maybe there were institutional, amounts that were poured into it early. I mean, it didn't get real high. Ours hit like 2 or 3 million market cap, but it was our first token to ever launch. And I feel like our group and other groups that were involved are the ones that pushed it up. So we really wanted to see people profit, but the problem was that there were other bad actors that were involved, and that's something you can't get away from. So here's something very specific I can tell you about a token launch that I know for a fact because I've seen it many times. So everybody knows what a bundler is by this point, I think, but if you don't, basically a bundler it's software that it snipes. So the token creator uses this bundler software, and they create new wallets, new fresh wallets, and they deploy or send SOL or whatever the token it is that they use to purchase the supply of the new token they're making. They send the SOL to wallets before creating the contract. And so once the SOL is in the new wallets, it may be 20 to 30 wallets that they've created. So these wallets can't be tracked as far as, okay, I'm going to go back and look, have these wallets been involved in any bad trade or bad deployments before? Are they suspect? Well, unfortunately, there's a brand new fresh wallets that are created by a bot, and there's no way, or not really by a bot, by a algo. Well, it's not even an algo. I guess bot is the best way to put it because it's a code that you just hit a button and it does everything. But once all this SOL is sent to the wallets, then the contract, they get to snipe their own supply. So they snipe the supply of, what's a coin? Well, we'll just call it FARTCOIN. So let's say this is the creator, token creator, FARTCOIN, and so they snipe their supply before the snipers can. And so this is what happens. So you've got about 30 wallets that have sniped supply. Maybe they own as much as 70% of the supply now. And then you got snipers coming in after them. I don't know how much they would take, maybe 10%, since they've already sniped up so much supply. But you don't know this right here, because the reason why you don't know this is because they're fresh wallets. You don't realize that it's been bundled unless if you go up here to our token scam checks and you paste in here's the bundle analysis for FARTCOIN 2 that somebody, Dilif, is actually he's in here with us right now. He uses this a lot, and he sees how much remaining bundle is left, how much was bundled initially. And usually when these bundles have dwindled down a bit, when they've sold a lot of their supply and people are still interested in the token, then the token can pump. But you can imagine that if somebody holds a lot of supply and there's just a lot of pressure at the top, they keep selling and selling and selling, it doesn't matter how many people are buying, it just can't get any traction. And then people end up losing interest in the token, and then it fails, right? It just goes down to nothing until it's ready to pump again. And sometimes you will get groups come in and revive a token, but it's fairly rare. So that's basically how that works. Snipers are going to sell, once they get like 2x to 10x, they're not going to hold for too long. Depends on how early they got in. And then you got all the retail. As far as institutions, yeah, you're right. I mean, it would happen much later, I would think. They probably wait till things hit at least 10 million or more on market cap. So 20% could be retail, possibly. You know, they could make up the rest of it. So we got 70, 80, yeah, that's 100. Yeah, so hopefully that makes sense. I've seen it in real time myself. I know of a bot, and I've used the bot before to, you know, test it out and see how it works. So I do know that it works, but it's good that we have these bundle checks now, because this will give you information. And this used to be a very important process in our degen alerts is, you know, we would always say, hey, you know, be sure to check the bundles first. And I think it is still good to do so, but yeah, you can still make money off of something, whether it's bundled or not. I would just say that.
You think that the bundler sort of flag on Axiom is worth looking at? If you know what I mean, there's like a percentage bundlers field for each token.
On GMGN, on this site?
No, on Axiom.
Axiom, I don't know if I've ever used Axiom. Let me see. What is it? Let me just type crypto. Oh, is it? Okay. I need to check that out then.
It works really nice because you can just load your copy, and then it'll just pull up immediately what's in your clipboard, and then you can immediately click on the coin and even auto buy right off the copy paste.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, I'll check it out sometime. That's really interesting. So it's kind of like BullX in a way.
40% of, I think 40-50% of trading volume for Solana meme coins is on Axiom currently.
Wow, I definitely need to check it out then. Well, let's just look here. I mean, y'all keep asking questions or talking about that if you want. I just wanted to make a quick point. We're down to 150 volume, 150K. The net buys are negative now. So, you know, this was my point earlier. Even if you didn't take that profit right there, look where the lines crossed. You really didn't lose that much, right? Where did I have that line? So we bought here. Could have taken profits right in here somewhere. So 240%, or we gave ourselves time and, you know, to see if it could make a much bigger move, and made 188% instead if we waited for these lines to cross, or just one line to cross. You could have made a little bit more actually. Yeah, you would have made about the same, so about 240%. So it almost works out the same on a 30-second chart is what I was going to say. You know, it doesn't matter really if you take that cross down or that, for the most part. But you really need a good entry. I mean, if you're buying way up here and you see something like that, you know, you may just want to get out because you don't have a very good entry. You want to be buying down here for sure before the pump. I don't know if we have anything new here. Let's see. Oh yeah, we do. Okay. Digimon DFDV. This happened 27 minutes ago at 338K. I should have been paying more attention while we were talking earlier. I wanted to catch one of these immediately. What did I say? $9.51, okay, at 338. Yeah, this wasn't a very good one actually. This was about right there. Yeah. Wouldn't have made any profit at all, really. But, I mean, this is a good...
And it had pretty poor volume after whatever that
Yeah.
was. Look at the age of the coin too, it's pretty old.
Yeah, good. Yeah, definitely. I don't like, I'm with you. I'd rather have something that's brand new. But let's just say, as an example, we waited till the line crossed down. I mean, see, 3% loss, not bad at all, if we waited for that line to cross down. So could have made a small gain if you did that cross down, but you gave yourself a chance and you just lost 3%, so no big deal. Other than fees, you know, fees would have added a little bit onto it as well. Let's see, Digimon's an old one. Probably not going to mess with that. Let's just look at the wallets here and just see if they have anything. WDEX, let's see what that is. Is there another one here? MLG, okay, we got a few more coming in. Maybe I need to start waiting longer for these, longer in the day. Lower high on the MACD. I mean, if I'm just talking about if I'm interested in this one right now at all, 29K volume, probably not yet. Let's see if it gets some more volume. And while we wait on that, we'll look at this other one. This is MLG here. I don't know if this is a new token though. No, it's not. 360 days old. So probably wouldn't be, yeah, the volume's way too low on this one anyway, so we'll close this one. So I'm on a 30-second chart currently. I'm not gonna, it doesn't matter when the alert came in on this one. It was recent at the very least. But we can save ourselves a lot of time by looking at the 5-minute volume there. And we've got 27K. It's just not worth doing anything with just yet. It might be worth watching as the MACD comes down here to the center line. If we get a bounce right there while volume is increasing, then that would be a buy signal. But currently, it's just not looking that big of a deal to me. I wouldn't, if you use GMGN, don't worry about the rug probability thing so much. You want all these to be in the green if it's been burned. If the top 10% is under, I think 30%, or is it 25%? Anyway, if this is green, yeah, I think it's under 30%. So if this is green, you're good. You don't want them to be able to mint new tokens. You don't want them to be able to, well, basically you want them to renounce the contract. So, look for things like that. Yeah, I mean, this one's just too slow right now.
Just about that chart, actually, I don't know if that's a concern to you, but what puts me off is it's really quite choppy. Got a lot of tall green and red candles, which sort of indicates to me sort of big buys and sells that, just potentially are farming you. Do you think that's that opinion is valid, or does that concern you?
Yeah, yeah.
Sort of trying to look for wavy sort of kind of charts. If the only way I could really describe it.
Sure.
Yeah, something like that looks a bit more natural to me, and then that other chart just looks like, just puts me off just the way it looks.
Yeah, and you're right. I mean, I can tell that you've been doing degen plays for a while. This is something that I think is important to mention. There are definitely bots out there. I mean, there's even, and I was going to say volume bots, but there's even, they'll hire a company like Wintermute, which Wintermute's probably too expensive for something like this. But there used to be some lesser companies, and some of them got in trouble because they were doing bad things. But think of Wintermute like a market maker, and then they hire whoever deploys this token either hires somebody or they use some service somewhere that they can affect the volume. They can use a bot that will entice price action. So it might try to create patterns that look like a falling wedge, or just does something that looks unnatural to the price action, doesn't look like a real price action. So I do agree that this does look unnatural in that regard, whereas this one, looks more like you were saying, the wavy up and down, finding higher highs, higher lows, and then having a big move up, and then some consolidation, lower high, that sort of thing. Which, by the way, it looks like this one's breaking down for good this time, at least for now. You're getting a lower high on the price action, and you're getting a much lower high on the MACD. And then obviously we want to step up and just look at the 1 minute, it's breaking down. And then the 5 minute is showing a cross down possibly soon. So, that's how I would break down the MACD on this one anyway. I'm not waiting on a line to cross down on the 5 minute again, just to remind y'all, the only time I watch for a cross down, waiting for an actual cross down, it's probably best just to stick with the 30-second on that thought, but sometimes I'll do it on the 1 minute chart as well. But since it lags so much, sometimes that gets you out a little bit too late. So instead of worrying about cross downs, like we were talking about before, although this would have got you out at the very top, to give yourself time to make more money, in case it does pump again, it's okay to wait for one of these lines to start crossing down first to give you a sell signal on 30-second chart. Okay. Yeah, that's the last one we've had right there. We haven't had a new one since. Top degen wallet. What do we have? have here? DeepL. Let's look at that one. Let's make this the last one here because I got to get out and get some things done. We'll take a look at this one.
As an aside, there is some little reassurance. Arcblock is showing some real nice light this morning.
Nice. I know y'all been waiting on that one. I'm just going to look at it real quick. Oh yeah, that's a nice candle. So that's why I have my bullish above line right there, which it doesn't really coincide with that red cloud line, but I suspect that this red cloud line is probably going to start coming down like this or something. So they could end up meeting at some point. I don't know, my bullish above may need to be more like that. Maybe I had it in the wrong place. Yeah, something like that. But that's what I would be looking for on any of these. Even if somebody doesn't have engineering robo, you know, I can turn that off and you know, save that chart. And this is a chart that I think I have linked somewhere. If I don't, y'all just let me know. But it is running into a little bit of resistance here. You know, just call this a resistance zone at the bullish above line. And if we get a full candle above it, then I think it's much more likely that it's headed towards TP1. Not immediately, maybe, but you know, that is a really strong move on the RSI there. We know things don't go up in a straight line usually. You know, it's going to need some choppy price action before it really gets going. Oh yeah, we were looking at that other one. Oh yeah, that's hardly any volume at all, $27, okay. So yeah, we're not gonna look at that one. All right, yeah, I mean, if you like DGen plays and you're looking for more alerts, I mean, I think they're gonna start popping up more and more, of course, as the market gets more bullish. I mean, it's gonna get to a point to where, for those of you that are new, I mean, you're gonna get so many alerts in the early alpha alerts that you can't even keep up with them, you know, when things are really moving, but the market's still kind of sideways, so, you know, it's just not quite there yet. But if you wanted more, I showed this in the last video, if you wanted more, you can get Nansen, and you can see what DEX, what smart money is trading in real time, like within seconds. You know, here's some right here. So this is a brand new token. That's why it doesn't have a name. And you just click through. You can see smart money's buying it over here, how much they purchased, and you know, click in and get the contract address and pull it up. So that's another way to get alerts if you're looking for something else. But I'll check out Axiom. I appreciate y'all, you know, suggesting that, and great questions today. I mean, it's obvious that y'all have a lot of experience with DGen plays, so we're just going to keep getting better with them. And always be careful, of course, with DGen plays. I mean, the majority of your money, I mean, this is just my opinion, the majority of your money should be in the long-term plays. But yeah, I mean, it's fun to play these DGen because it's kind of like leverage trading without leverage trading. Okay, well, we'll wrap it up there unless y'all have any last questions or anything. Okay. Well, y'all have a good rest of your day. I'll try to, we'll probably do at least one more of these this week, probably a Thursday or something. I do run a construction company, so I stay busy doing construction estimating and stuff like that. So my days get a little bit busy sometimes, but I'll always check in and, you know, throughout the day and answer questions if you have anything. But as far as the videos that we do, or that I do, they're generally going to be in the morning time, morning for me. Okay, well, y'all have a good day. Appreciate it, and we'll do another one real soon.